Go ahead.
So I would request you, Dan, if you can introduce yourself
Sure.
to our customers and audience here, that would be great.
I'm Dan Reich. I run the security team here at Human Security. We are a bot and fraud mitigation services platform, and my team encompasses everything from product security, incident response, CRC, and all things corporate related as well. We are a small team, but we're very invested in a lot of things AI. And so it's a really interesting topic that we have here today.
Right. Yeah. So many customers are looking into compliances and strategy, how things should be in cybersecurity. So moving ahead, John and Dan, one question for both of you. So what is your perspective on the changing journey of pen testing in the cybersecurity environment?
I'm happy to start.
Dan, you go first. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think this industry as a whole, right? I've been working with SecureLayer7 for a number of years, and I've seen pen test results from other organizations that we receive as part of the vendor risk assessments that we're doing. And so I think the industry for time, right, was kind of looking at this as sort of a commodity, right? And we're starting to finally move away from that, where you used to see a lot of these, and I won't name companies, but there are a lot of companies that sort of treat this as a transaction that can be more or less automated. You bring in a team, they do a planned task, and then you get results, and they're not very good results. And so the industry is now looking at this going, hey, we have real threats, right? AI is changing the nature of our threats. We have a lot more exposure points that can be found. And so we can't just rely on these sort of pen test mills, if you will, that will produce a result that will get you past your audits, but don't actually meaningfully surface real risk to your organization that you can address. And so we're now shifting away from that. Most companies are realizing, hey, this isn't going to protect me. I have exposure. It's now being found out. I have to really get ahead of this. And at the same time, being a pen tester, right? This is this is a skill, right? There's an art to it. It's not just like I can go read a book and I'm qualified. There's knowledge, there's training, there's awareness that goes into this that's just not easily replicable, right? SecureLayer7 does an amazing job of maintaining an in-house staff that has the requisite skills to consistently perform at a high level, but that's not common and it's hard to do. And so we're now moving past that and going, all right, how do we scale this out, right? And this is where AI is starting to shape a lot of those conversations.
Right, completely agree.
Right.
So yeah, John, what do you see has changed in the compliance checkbox list and strategy?
Thank you. Yeah, so from my perspective, what I'm seeing with a lot of customers right now is they are moving away from just simple black box, give me the very basics. They're doing more gray box. They're also asking for more red teaming. So they're wanting their Active Directory tested. They're wanting to experience a ransomware attack that's not real, but it does trigger all of the alerts, so they can test responses to that. And you're also seeing people doing more than just once a year pen testing. So they're doing it twice a year. We've got more of them going to quarterly pen testing, and a lot of them are asking for more than just that simple black box. That's what I'm seeing.
That's correct. I agree. As a project manager, also the kind of project we are getting, they are not just limited to black box, but gray box. Red teaming is something which is booming a lot because it gives all open surface to the pen testers and the red teamers. So as we are discussing the current climate of pen testing in the market, what actually makes the engagement successful, where the market is heading to from your perspective, and how you see the demand of pen testing changed from last year to this year. What do you think, Daniel, on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think from just reacting to what my customers are asking, right? Is they're asking, are we doing AI pen testing, and where else are we using AI? So everything is now revolving around AI. They want to know that we're doing more, that we're not simply just rinse and kind of doing a rinse and repeat of the same pen test engagement, that we're actually considering the risks of AI. And so they're asking us, hey, are your pen testers not only just leveraging tools, but are they successfully leveraging the tool sets and showing relevant work output from that? It's not simply enough to just bring an LLM and say, well, let me just give it a prompt and it'll go to town. There's a lot of work and thought that has to go into that engagement, that again requires some planning, some some negotiations as far as what the boundaries are. But ultimately, right, we're trying to up level the results and up level the kind of the awareness that we have from both the security team, but also the feedback that we can then share back with my product teams that are building product, that are responding to issues identified.
Right. So yeah, it's true. Now customers are not just looking for a checklist, but a strategic investment for their products. And they're actually asking questions like how actual business risks are being treated, and what are the critical assets they should prioritize. So I get those questions a lot, and I understand from that perspective. So moving on the same direction. So what when you engage in a penetration testing, what factors make engagement successful for you, and how you see, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think what makes this a successful outcome is really bringing in our pen test partners into the fold, right? In a lot of cases, I've seen engagements kick off where they're like, all right, here's my infrastructure, see what you can find out. And that's an okay starting point, but you're not going to get a lot of good results. And I think from a engagement perspective, where I like to start from is, let me tell you about my environment. Here's things that you may not know, right? I'm not going to waste my pen testers' time with having them go off and explore. Now, a determined attacker, right, is going to figure all that out. So let's skip past that and get right into the meat of it. Let me explain to you my business and have you have a better understanding of how to target us, and really come at us as if you are a well-informed attacker. And that lays the groundwork for everything else past that point. So then, once we have that understanding, right, I bring in all the relevant teams that are needed to support this. So I need to have my product teams on standby. I need to have IT on standby. They need to be able to not only provision you access, right, but to make sure that we give you sufficient levels of access that you're testing from different vectors.
Right. Sean, how you feel about that? Do you have any thoughts? Something new adding?
Yeah. So, Dan, that's really good. I know you've worked with SecureLayer7 for a number of pen tests here recently, and you've been doing this for a lot of years. Would you mind just kind of covering kind of what has separated us and what we're doing compared to maybe previous tests that you've done in the past? Could you give us a little insight there?
Sure. And let me take a step back and kind of go a little deeper into the history of that I've been working with SecureLayer7, not just in my current role, but in prior companies as well. And the one thing that really sets SecureLayer7 apart here is the consistency of the results, right? Year after year, right? Doesn't matter what organization I've been with, there's just a high level output in terms of quality, right? I've brought in the past other pen testers where they have a really good first or second engagement, and they kind of tail off after that. They get complacent. They kind of cease to have quality findings, and that's a really hard thing to replicate. There's a small number of firms I've worked over the years that can actually consistently produce the same quality of results year after year, where when you bring them in after year 2, year 3, right, they still treat it as if it's the first engagement and go deep, right? Don't make assumptions. And that's a process side that I've seen on SecureLayer7 that is not common and works really well for our engagements as a success factor. But the larger, as I was saying before, right, the larger picture around, how we do that engagement is really that critical factors for success, right? Bringing you in, showing you what it means to be a customer, explaining to you our business logic, and then enabling you to act as all those different personas so that, you can truly, get into that environment, also really help in that. So the combination of those two things really produces amazing results year after year, right? In fact, we have an engagement going on right now, and it's just amazing to see the level of detail that you get into with understanding the products, the roles within my product, right? And being able to target that, right? Can you execute some fine-grained access control elevation, right? And that only comes from having that presence of awareness of what my business is. And that's not an easy thing to replicate.
Like, as soon as we report a finding which is critical or high, our customers want to know how they can fix that first and what is required to be fixed first. And that significantly has changed the pen testing approach and their experience and overall engagement. So also there has been a lot of buzz around autonomous pen testing, and the market is moving toward in the direction. So do you feel, Dan, that in future there will be more autonomous pen testing or human-led testing, which will remain as an essential?
Yeah, I think autonomous testing is here to stay. It's going to grow, right? If you're not doing it now, you need to be doing it. Your board will be asking you about that if they haven't already. Your customers are certainly going to be asking about it. And it is I look at it as a force multiplier, right? And all the different ways that we use AI within the security organization, right? It's become a force multiplier. And it's also been a tool that allows us to uplift our quality. And we've done some direct testing with that with some of our processes that become somewhat tedious, and we found that in some cases using AI to augment those processes gives us better quality results. And I suspect that it's really the same case here, right, with pen testing, is that there is a lot of tedious work with pen testing to do a proper job, but your AI tooling can augment that and improve quality at the same time.
Right. So that is what exactly we are doing here at SecureLayer7. We are using hybrid approach, and it is helping our customers to accelerate the discovery and leverage the automation to scale and keep up with the human experts and make sure that findings are actionable. What actually is an actionable finding? So this is something which we are keeping up with, and we know that our clients are looking forward to have a better experience. So this actually adds up to it. And keeping up with the market is something we always make sure at SecureLayer7. So next, I would like to know, and it would be great if you can share your advice to other customers who are preparing for pen testing and looking for like the best solution and way to move around it.
Yeah. I would, my one bit of advice that I give everyone with regards to pen testing is, question your results. If you have a clean pen test, right, you've been using the same pen test firm and you're not getting results, you really should be questioning, whether or not you're getting good value out of it. One thing that I think is fairly consistent is that, with working with SecureLayer7, right, we find things big and small, right, but there is, we can see that you're not just trying the same things over and over again, right? There isn't a preset script that you're kind of sticking to. As we observe the testing going on, right, we can see the thought process going into, okay, so we've done this in the past, let's try something else, right? Let's look at the platform, how it's changed. And where your customers are, where people are thinking about, who to engage for pen testing, right? You should be looking at not only do they have a scalable program, but now how are they incorporating AI, right? And how are they putting that to good use, right? Are they getting better quality results out of it? Are they having more interesting observations? It may not actually be a vulnerability, right? You may have an observation that's still relevant for the business, that can't be quantified as an actual direct risk, but may be relevant from a reporting perspective. That again, these AI tools that your pen testers bring to market may be of interest for your organization.
Right.
That's great. We got a question that's come in here from a customer wanting to know how are you handling application code reviews? When are you guys doing that? Are you doing that third party? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We have quite a large code base. We've done actually a code review with SecureLayer7. We use in-house tooling as well. We have peer reviews. I think most recently, right, what we started to experiment with is, right, everyone's talking about, oh, Mythos can do all these code reviews and find things. Well, if you have an unlimited budget and huge context windows, sure, you can. Where we're going with this is, we're looking at how we can embed this, not necessarily at, sort of the pen test sort of view of our code, but let's look at the small changes that are occurring, right, between the pen tests. So we're looking at taking a diff of a code change, something that was, submitted into GitHub. Let's look at that code change. So let's use the LLMs to review the code that was changed, the Jira ticket, right, that describes the change, and then incorporate that feedback into our review cycle. So a little bit outside of the boundaries of pen testing, but it is related to that, right? I think there's no perfect approach to this. I will tell you that just going through that exercise that we've been doing since January, there's a lot of noise, a tremendous amount of noise. For every 100 reviews that are done, right, I may have one item that's worth reviewing, and out of say 100 of items that are flagged, I might only have one or two that are actually a thing that requires a follow-up. So it obviously depends on your development teams and how they're writing code, but AI is going to be everywhere in your organization, and you really need to think about how you're going to embrace that.
Great. Thank you.
So I would like to know, next thing is, like, what are the internal challenges you face while pen testing that? So internal organization challenges which you face.
Yeah, the biggest challenges I have are probably not unique to us, but it's the complexity of our organization and constraints that we have from a business perspective, right? So we have a lot of rules around when we can test, and we have just periods of the year that we just cannot do testing. End of the year, right, for us is really busy because our customers are really busy. So, starting around November through the end of the year, we start to get into code freezes. I still have to do my pen test. I have to do 2 pen tests a year, just to satisfy some of the PCI requirements. And so I really have to make sure that I'm planning ahead of this, because if there are other efforts afoot underway with R&D, and there always are, I need to make sure that I'm getting into their schedule at least 3 months out, if not 6 months, to ensure that it's not going to get derailed by some other planning that maybe you're not, if you're running a security team, hopefully you're invited to those planning processes, but if you aren't, right, it becomes a real challenge. So we really need to get in front of this. And so just organizational challenges of any that they have with any engineering shop are going to come into play that make it difficult. So you really need to be on top of your project planning internally.
Great.
So that's
We've got
something.
One more question here from a customer. How are you handling and dealing with your APIs throughout the year?
Well,
within your web applications?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, right, we have APIs that we publish out, and it's the same as everything else that we're doing in terms of assessing the changes that are going into our repositories, as well as making sure that they're tested as part of the pen test engagements. The same standards apply to APIs as it does to any other code change that we're making. I will say the one thing that we're cognizant of, and this is a little bit harder for us to do because scale, right? For anyone who knows anything about human security, right, we process about 20 trillion transactions per week. That's a lot of requests. So monitoring our scale is a little bit different from potentially, a lot of your customers out there. So, we have, we still have to monitor, we still have to pay attention to it. But the scale at which we do it gives us some unique challenges in terms of how we monitor whether or not, the APIs, when we make code changes, how does that impact? What do we see in terms of our exposure and what, attackers are potentially trying to do? So we rely very heavily on sort of upfront testing, right? Both our SDLC processes as well as our pen testing, so that hopefully we're not trying to catch something from a monitoring the production state.
That's great. So just a note to that, SecureLayer7 does have a API scanner, and we do offer that to our customers to monitor, to do pen test, or to do the API scanning and testing, especially if they want to do it more often than like a once a year pen test. Well, we're testing their APIs when we do that, but a lot of times those APIs can change over time. And having a tool where you can go back and retest those and discover those APIs can be very valuable. And it's one of those things where I think, and I've heard this from customers because they've been asked, what else are you doing other than the minimum requirements? So going back and saying, hey, look, we know these things change, and we're consistently testing those throughout the year. So I think that's a kind of a good best practices. And we do provide that as an option for our customers if it's something that they don't currently have. So thanks, that was great.
So we are reaching to our time limit. So one last question would be, what advice you would like to give other organization to get the most out of the pen test engagement they should be considering? Dan.
So I think the one bit of advice I will share is bring your pen tester into the fold, right? Don't make them kind of blindly discover how your business operates, right? That's something your attacker will do. Skip right over that step, right? Bring SecureLayer7 in, explain to them your business model, explain the business logic, right? Attacker will figure this out over time. If you're being targeted, they're going to know this. And so I don't want to, you don't want to tie your pen testers' hands behind their backs, waste their time learning about your product. You should be educating them and bringing them on board. Make sure they have the right access. Make sure that they're not blocked. And then work with them, right? It's not adversarial. It should be collaborative, right? Put them in touch with developers as needed. Make sure that your teams are on standby, that they're aware this is going on, and if something should be found, right, they're going to be responsible for getting involved in that engagement.
Right.
That's great advice.
Right. So great advice, and that's exactly what we are doing at SecureLayer7. From our kickoff call to project planning and the communication throughout, monitoring and keeping you guys updated on how things are moving ahead, and providing the quick remediations are something which I think gives an overall success to our project delivery. Timely delivering reports and providing access to live reporting is something I think has been adding value to you as well. So overall, I think this was very insightful for all of us and our audience. And I would like to wrap up this webinar with some key takeaways for all of us. So pen testing is evolving, and with AI and cloud, it has been going to next level. And success surely depends on collaboration, clarity, and beyond minimum requirements, how we are understanding our customers and how things are being moving from there. Autonomous pen testing is emerging, and along with that, customers look for trust, and human expertise remains the critical asset of the pen testing success. And that's the overall how things would be moving ahead, how we see as of now. John and Dan, you want to add any last words or anything?
Yeah, I will say this, and I've run across this with a couple of our customers. SecureLayer7, we've been doing this for over a decade, and we are CREST certified, which I think is important. And we also have CREST certified pen testers on board. I have actually had a customer come back to us, had done a pen test, and then their customers told them that they needed to do a CREST pen test, not just a black box scan. So then they had to come back and redo a test with a vendor that was CREST certified. So knowing whether or not that's going to be a requirement, maybe from your customers ahead of time, can be good. The fact that SecureLayer7 is ISO certified, ISO 27001, and we're also SOC 2 compliant. And I know that as we're moving forward, that's becoming more and more important to our customers. They're asking for those things ahead of time. And I think it's good to know that your pen testers are meeting those requirements because they're dealing with your vulnerabilities. And I think it's important. Dan, I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, that's a really good some really good points there, John. You know, my last piece of wisdom is really going to be for security teams out there. Really think about how you can better embrace AI. It's not going away. This is the future direction that we are all, going to be facing. This is here to stay, and you should be thinking about this from all different impacts to your organization, but especially that pen testing side, right? And as well as all of the attackers who are going to take those same techniques and apply it against your organization, whether or not it's a pen test or it's an attacker, it's going to look the same from your network visibility perspective. Really think about how you're getting ahead of it. Don't wait for it to catch up to you.
Great. Well, thank you. That was very good. NVIDIA?
Yeah, so that was quite insightful, and I would like to thank both of you for giving your time, and I hope we connect soon on another webinar with a new topic, and we engage with our audience and make it a success. Thank you so much.
Hey, Dan, thank you, and safe travels to Japan. I hear you're going to be spending some time over there.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. You bet. Take care.